Hi everyone! In this video, I'm going to teach you how to make a digital incident documentation form using Google Forms for your classroom. Google Forms is a fantastic tool for teachers that can be used in a variety of ways, such as creating and gathering data for formative and summative assessments, tutoring logs, class surveys, and documentation. There are two ways to access Google Forms. You can either type forms.google.com into your address bar and then click Start a New Form, or you can go to Google Drive, click New, and select Google Forms. Both ways will pull up this blank form. There are a lot of features on Google Forms, but I will just be focusing on a few of them for today's video. Those are Add Question, Question Type, and Add Section. The first thing you want to do is name your form so that you can find it easily. For this example, I'm just going to name mine Student Documentation. If you change the title in the upper left, it will automatically change the title here. Now it's time to design the form you want. I am going to show you the way that I prefer to set it up, but the beauty of Google Forms is that you can customize it to whatever way is easiest for you to use. I am going to start by putting in my student names. Now, this can be a daunting task, especially if you are a secondary or specialty teacher. So I'm going to teach you a couple of different ways to do this. I would start by making a list of all of your students on a separate document. Many times it is hard to copy and paste names straight from your attendance software, so I recommend doing this first. If you are a secondary or specialty teacher, make sure that you separate it by class. For my video today, I will be using this list of 6 fake class rosters here. If you are an elementary teacher or someone who only has one class, you may just be loading in students from one roster. If that's the case, please keep watching. If you are a secondary or specialty teacher, I will show you a separate way to add names in just a few minutes. Once you have your roster ready to go, adding names is pretty easy. First, label your question as names, students, or whatever you prefer. Next, change your question type to drop-down. You will notice that your answer section changed to this. Now, find your roster, copy all of your students' names, go back and click on option 1. It should highlight. Now, right-click and paste. Voila! All of your students have now been added in as separate answer choices. Now, when you go to use the form later, you will see that you can immediately click the student's name and continue on with your form. This saves you from having to type a name over and over again. This will also make it easier when you're sorting through your responses later. Secondary and specialty teachers. I know that your rosters tend to be very long due to working with multiple grade levels or class periods. I'm going to teach you a way to set up student names that will save you time when using this form in the future. It will take a little extra time to set up, but it is worth it. When you start, you are going to label this first question as class period or class grade, whatever works best for you. You can keep the multiple choice question option, or you can change the question type to drop down. For this example, I'm just going to leave it as multiple choice. For your answer choices, list out your class periods or grade levels here. I'm a secondary teacher with an AB schedule, so I'm going to set it up how I'm used to seeing it at my school. Next, you need to hit this button right here, Add Section. Adding a section is like adding a new page. What this will do is limit how many questions appear on a page when using the form. We can also use it to pull up specific questions depending on the previous answer to a question. That's how we are going to use it for our rosters. Each section allows you to label it. I'm going to label this one for my first period. Then I'm going to hit this button, the circle with the plus sign in it, to add a question. Here is where we're going to put the first roster. In this question bar, I am going to type student names. Then I'm going to change my question type to drop down. You will notice that your answer section changed to this. Now, find your roster. Copy all of your students' names. Go back. Click on option 1. It should highlight. Then right-click, paste, and voila! All of your students have been added as separate answer choices. I'm going to go ahead and do this for all of my rosters. Again, I'll click on New Section, label it with my class period, add a question, type in student names, change the question type to drop-down, go to my roster, copy my names, come back here, paste them. Now, with a little editing magic, I'm going to do this for my other 4 classes. You can now see here that I have all of my classes loaded in into separate sections on my Google form. Alright, you now have all of these rosters put in, but you don't want to have to click through all of them over and over just to get to the one that you need. Here's where we get a little technical. Don't worry, it's pretty easy. To start, I'm going to jump back up here to my class period question. I'm going to click on these 3 vertical dots at the bottom right of the section. When I click on it, I see 3 options. I'm going to select Go to the section based on answer. You will now see that every answer option has a new menu added to it. This menu allows me to jump to a specific section of the form and ignore the rest. So now I'm going to say that if I click on 1A, this will jump to section 2, 1A. Now, when I'm using this form, it will jump straight to my 1A roster if I select this class. I'm going to go ahead and set this up for my other classes. Go ahead and scroll to the bottom of your form. Click on the last section you made and click Add Section. Now we are ready to add the documentation questions to this form. Once you have created a new section for your documentation, there's one more thing you need to do to get your form to move correctly. While your question choices will jump automatically to the correct section, you have to tell Forms to jump again to the documentation section and bypass the other rosters. We do that by scrolling to the bottom of each section. Find the line that says after section whatever the number is, and click on the menu next to it. Tell it to go to the section where you have set up your documentation questions. Great! Now your rosters are ready. The documentation part of this form will really vary depending on your school's requirements or what you want to document. I'm going to show you some things that I use personally, but it's really up to you what you want to add here. If you only have one roster, you can go ahead and continue adding documentation parts to this form by clicking the Add Question button. Or you can make a separate section for the documentation questions by clicking on Add Section and then Add Question. I'm going to continue using my secondary and specialty teacher example, so I'm already set up in a new section. The first thing I'm going to show you is how you can quickly add a time and date section. Google Forms will create a time and date stamp automatically for each entry, but sometimes you may be filling out this form after an incident has occurred and need to be more specific. Google Forms actually has these types of questions built in, which is nice. First, I'm going to click Add Question, and then I'm going to change my question type to Date. When I'm using this form, the date question pops up like this. When I click on it, I can type in the date, or I can click this button here, and we'll pull up a monthly calendar, and I can just click on the date. Next, I'll add a time section. I'll click Add Question, and change the type to Time. This question pops up like a blank digital clock. Here, I can type in the time, and then click if it's AM or PM. After this, I'm going to create a place where I can label where the incident occurred. If this is something specifically for your classroom, you may not want this section. I will create this by creating a new question, calling it Location, and I'm going to leave it as a multiple choice question, but you can always choose drop-down as well. I'm going to go ahead and add a few places where common incidents occur with my students as the answer choices. I am also going to click this Add Other button. This will make a typable section on the question when I am filling it out where I can write in something that I may not have thought of when I was setting up this form originally. Now, I'm going to add a question to describe the incident. This section can be done in a couple of ways. I can make a question that is multiple choice or drop down with common incidents, like so. And then again, I'm going to hit this Add Other option. Or I can create an open text question that allows me to type what happened. I'll do this by hitting Create a Question. I'm going to call mine Incident Details. And I'm going to change my question type to Paragraph. You can choose short answer, but it will limit how much you can type. You can also use both of these questions together. The last type of question I'm going to add is one I am calling Actions. Again, I'll click Add Questions. I will call it Actions. And I'm going to change the type of question to checkboxes. This will allow me to select multiple answer choices when I am actually using the form, in case I have to do multiple things after whatever occurred. I'm going to go ahead and add some common things that I've had to do before, but again, you can customize this to whatever you need. And again, I'll hit this Add Other button just in case I do something in the future that I haven't thought of yet. These are all the documentation questions I'm going to add for this video. At this point, I am done creating my form, but I want to set it up so that it's easy and quick for me to use when I need it. To use the actual form, I'm going to go up here and click on this I in the upper right hand corner. You've probably seen me click on it throughout this video. It brings me to the first section of my form. To make sure I am able to jump straight to this page, I'm going to go ahead and add this form to my bookmark bar by clicking this star in the address bar. It's going to prompt me to name it. I'll call it Student Documentation. And then I'm going to make sure it's saving to my bookmarks bar. Hit Done, and you can see that it was added right here for easy access. To access the responses you've typed into this form, you need to go back to the editing section of the form. Remember, if you've added it to a specific place in your Google Drive, you can go back there and click on it. We are going to use this middle section here called Responses. You can see graphs and all the answers that you have submitted here. If you click on this green square right here in the upper right hand corner, Google will take all of this information and put it into a Google Sheet, where you can manipulate and see the information in a different way. Once this sheet is created, it will populate next to wherever your form is in Google Drive. Then you can just click on it when you need to access it again in the future instead of having to go through the Google Form Edit section. And there you go. You have now created an easy digital way to document incidents that happen in your classroom. I hope this helps relieve some of your work in the upcoming school year. Thanks for watching.